John, we're gonna add it in post. Yes, we are. This is not.
Is this the microphone?
Yes. Yeah, the new iPads pick up really well. We'll just add it in post.
It's already happening.
I think you guys know the words.
Add it in post.
Oh, that was a good intro.
In my old Kentucky home. Kentucky. Southern town.
2, 1.
That was good.
Every time.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Kentucky Commons Radio Hour on this decent Wednesday evening.
Nice day. Nicer than it has been.
My name's Michael Moeller, joined today by John Renane, David Satterley. Together we are Louisville Ale Trail. We have a couple special guests here today and a special beer as well that we'll get to in just a second. But hey, you know, if you're listening to this and you're not watching this, that's on you. You could be watching this right now. We have a Patreon where for $3 a month, you can see Satterley spill beer all over the place like he just did.
You pour beer like a savage.
Like
That is incredible.
That tall pour was out of control.
mean,
However, he did control it well.
It was under control. So, you know, take a look. www.patreon.com/kycommons. And if you can't do that yet, that's okay. Just leave a review on your favorite podcast app. That's fine too. We prefer 5 stars. 4 is acceptable, but just like say why. And then, you know, just leave a good review. That's what I'm saying.
Is this the part where I read chapter 3?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and there are other perks to the whole Patreon thing as well. We've gone over that before, but there's some special gifts in there too if you do it. So, special guests today, 2 guests actually.
What up?
We are joined today by Amelia Pillow, the founder and brewmaster at Shippingport Brewing Company, one of Louisville's newest breweries, but then also Bentley McBentleson, the director of marketing at Long John Silver's. We normally don't have Long John Silver's on
That's right,
here.
everybody. It's that episode.
So they did a special collaboration together, and we're here to talk about that.
Yeah.
So, Amelia, Bentley, how's it going?
What
How's it going? And what the fuck? All right. It's going good.
Yeah.
And what the fuck is good beer?
Ahoy there,
So-
mateys.
So we have this beer that's released earlier this month, Swashbockler. Tell us a little bit about that beer.
Well, first, where is the camera?
Right here. This
Okay.
little dude.
That's a camera?
Yeah.
Whoa!
We are high tech.
Interesting.
We actually film you when you don't know. You're being filmed.
Yeah, I kept on looking around while you were talking about it. I'm like, where are they watching this from? Maybe is this a camera?
That's a beer.
Wait. I am Bentley McBentleson from Long John Silver's. I'm the director of marketing, specifically digital and online ordering. Long John Silver's has been around since the 60s. However, the London tradition of fried fish on Fridays has been around for much longer than that. And one of the things that we were looking
I
at
thought
when
it started in the 30s.
like I said, much longer than that.
How long ago?
Catholicism.
Oh, okay.
One of the things that we did when we were looking into the background of fried fish and Catholicism is during Lent, we have something called Fish Fridays. So on Fridays, everybody goes out and gets fish. But when we were looking into some research around that, we realized that 17th century Catholic monks actually would go on liquid-only diets. And during that time, they actually ended up brewing a beer that was very nutrient heavy, so they could survive that entire time without eating anything solid. And that is actually the formation of the bock beer.
Yeah.
So we decided to partner with a local brewery, Shippingport Brewing Company, in order to create a beer which ties the current age of fried fish with that Lenten tradition of beer as well. So this beer, the Swashbockler beer, is brewed with a slight lemon notes and then also with our malt vinegar actually inside of it.
It's really, really nice. It's really bright. We can do tasting notes first, and then we can kind of get back to that what the fuck. Like
Yeah.
Long John Silver's doing beer is
And
awesome.
I
Yep.
also would like to say that this is a Helles bock. Traditionally, a lot of the beer that people associate with Lent
Mhm.
and bock beer is straight bock or doppelbock, which is
Our recipe here in the shop
darker,
is a
richer.
doppel.
Exactly.
Yeah, beer-only
All
diet.
of those things. Helles bock is usually brewed later in that scenario, but it's also lighter. And Long John Silver's definitely wanted something that was lighter,
Yeah.
crisper to pair with the fish. So
Well, it
that's
goes
why we
perfectly
chose
with,
Helles bock.
light, crispy, vinegary, lemony. It goes perfectly together. The beer's fantastic. So
Thank
it is.
you.
It's nice and light and bright.
It is super bright.
Yeah,
This is not what, when you say Bach, this is not my first thought.
Yeah,
right?
but that's what the Helles
That's the
category
Helles.
is. Yeah, or even a Maibach can be lighter like that sometimes. But the lemon notes really come through nicely on the nose. And the vinegars, if it's there, it's very subtle. So, well done on that. And that's one of those things sometimes it's we put our vinegar in it.
Well,
But you don't want to overdo it.
That
Yeah.
was part of the whole thing is that we wanted to use something that was Long John Silver's and tied the whole thing together because obviously we used lemon because lemon and fish go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And then we had the idea about the malt vinegar and basically we tasted it and we added enough to up perceptible acidity,
Mhm.
but not the flavor
That's
isn't
what I
really
would-
there.
yeah.
It's just a little crisper.
I think it
just,
probably works with the lemon too. It
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
just plays together instead of dominating.
At what point in the brew did you add it?
It's all cold side.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this wasn't we added the vinegar, we boiled it out.
No.
No, it's still there.
Yeah, for
Thanks,
sure.
yeah.
We now want to make some malt vinegar out of the beer. It was the other.
That would be
idea we
doubling
floated.
down
That would
on
be a
it.
great
That would be
idea.
tight.
Yeah, let's full circle. So, how did you two get connected? How did this all happen?
We have mutual friends from a while back.
We,
like
I
fish.
believe, met
Both of you.
outside while drinking 8 years ago.
We know you showed me a picture recently. We met at Forecastle.
No, we met up at Forecastle.
Did we know each other prior to
Yeah,
that?
we knew each other prior to that.
I don't know.
It's a long story.
He enjoys beer, and we have a lot of mutual friends.
Yeah,
and
totally.
yeah,
So
so,
Drinking is the answer to that question.
Yeah, so to me, this sounds like one of those ideas that probably came after a couple of beers at a brainstorming quasi work session.
this
or
was
something
entirely his brainchild. He basically, was coming up with concepts for marketing for pushing their Lent season is
Yeah.
the biggest season for them at Long John Silver's, and he came up with the idea of making a beer. And then when I was opening up my own brewery, he was like, do you think
Yeah,
maybe you want to do this? And he had kind of looked
Yeah.
at working with other bigger breweries, and they definitely were not as
that. You want us to put vinegar in it?
they were going to make it a lot bigger and more expensive of a project
Sure.
than working with somebody local. And so I feel a lot of it was A, I can actually execute it.
Mhm.
We actually know each other, but B, other people are going to be a little bit more difficult to work with and not as executable.
Well, in addition to that, working with a local Louisville brewery. So Long John Silver's is based in Louisville. We've been based out of Louisville for many, many years.
It started in Lexington, right?
We
Yeah.
did start out in Lexington, but we've been based in Louisville for, I believe, 35 years now.
Wow.
And really, one of the things that we do want to do is figure out a way to tie ourselves more into the local Louisville community. So partnering with a local brewery was something that we were very excited about. Also, Long John Silver's, pirate themed,
Exactly.
sea themed, Shippingport.
Yep.
Swashbockler,
Yep.
Shippingport.
It's a perfect combo.
Well,
Just like this beer in
Well,
front.
the funny thing about the name Swashbockler is
That was all him too.
Yeah.
I love that. That's fantastic. Yeah.
So the digital marketing manager at Long John Silver's, Jessica, her and I were on the phone, we're talking about this beer, and she's like, oh yeah, what do we want to call it? I'm like, oh, we'll call it just Long John Silver's Lenten beer.
Mhm.
And she's just like, no. Everybody at Long John Silver's loves puns. They love sea puns.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, whatever. We'll call it Swashbockler or something. And then there was a pause, and then she was just like, that's actually a good name. And I'm like, oh, that is
That's
a good
it.
name.
And then he told me that was the working name, and I was like, no, that's the name.
it, yeah.
It's not the
And,
working
maybe-
name, it's the name that works.
Yes,
Hell yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And also, when he came to me with the whole Lenten beer, and we talked about Helles bock and everything else, I was just and obviously lemon. I feel those were the things that really we brought to the table was obviously it's going to be this kind of beer. It wanted to be lighter, so it's Helles. But then I was like, it has to have another element for it to really be exciting and really have some flavor of its own that's going to really tie it to fish other
Yeah.
than just being a really excellent Helles bock, because I don't think that that's going to really excite people about the pairing as much. So I was like, obviously lemon. And then when we landed on the whole malt vinegar thing, the fact that they make their own and it's branded, I was like,
And Swashbockler is a reference to what exactly?
Swashbockler.
Swashbockler.
Okay.
Swashbuckler,
Yeah.
which is this pirate style of sword fighting or something like that.
Yeah.
Swash.
And
Buckles.
the funny thing about the malt vinegar is, when we originally looked at it, we're like, okay, I'm like, we have to have like a few samples to give to leadership to let them select it. So it was like, let's do one that's like lemon. Let's do one that's like more lemony. And then like, let's do like one with like malt vinegar or something in it. And I kind of said it as a joke. And she's just like, oh yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, why not?
Wait. We can do that? She was like, yeah. And then when we actually did the trial of it, the malt vinegar ended up rounding out a lot of those lemon notes. So it wasn't quite so much of a stab on your tongue with the lemon. And it's just like, this is actually really good. And it ends up tying the entire story together too, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So was it always going to be a Hellesbock, or were other recipes considered? Like, what could have this beer been?
So because of the link back to monks,
It was always going to be
it
some
was
kind of bock.
always going to be a bock. Yeah.
So Amelia, like as far as like the recipe creation goes, did you tinker around with a couple different ideas first, or?
We definitely, so again, also thinking about like, Long John Silver's, the kind of Lenten tradition, and also like the folks that are going to be like eating Long John Silver's fish and the beer that would be most approachable. The minute he said like Lenten beer and Bock beer, I was like, listen, we shouldn't do a standard one.
Yeah.
Like darker beer, heavier beer, fruitier beer, like that's not going to be what the average consumer, like to be honest, like if you're not into craft beer, things that are darker, richer, boozier are going to be something. Exactly. So that's why we landed on Hellesbock, because Hellesbock is like obviously color wise, immediately accessible.
Yep.
Flavor wise, it is something that is basically just like a bigger lager.
It's
and
rich.
That,
It's rich.
Yeah.
It's rich, but it's also not like, it's not so far away from what a consumer that might be as familiar with craft beer is going to be intimidated by, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
And so
Bock or something,
that's also
yeah.
like the 6.5%, you know, like usually Bock beer is a little bit bigger than that, but we decided to try to like tailor it a little bit down. So it's like, it is color wise, flavor profile wise for the Helles, and also like alcohol content, it is going to be accessible to people who are maybe not as familiar with craft beer. That's definitely why we landed on Hellesbock as opposed to like the richer, bigger box and double box.
Heck yeah. I think you nailed it. I really do.
Thank you.
So it's been out for what, 2.5, 3 weeks now at this point. What's the reaction been? Not just necessarily in the tap room, but then also just on from a marketing standpoint. I mean, that thing went out on the wire. I saw it. So like it had a broad reach.
We've heard tons of people talking about it too. Like people are, don't take this the wrong way, but I've had a few people say to me, "Oh, Long John Silver." It's like, oh, yeah, I hadn't thought about them for a little while. Just people in the beer community because they're so kind of focused on, you know,
Being nerds.
hipster shit. Yeah, being nerds, exactly. So I think it was very effective, at least from what I've seen, just in kind of like you had said earlier, just kind of connecting back to the roots of kind of being a local company and like all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Well, that's the entire point of doing something like this, is really to get out there in front of people who might not otherwise be considering us, might not have thought about us in the past. And, you know, we're not really the first brand to do something like this. So this was originally inspired by the Harpoon Duncan Porter, which I'm sure you've all experienced before. And they've actually spun off into, I think they have like, you haven't had that before?
It's great.
Oh.
It's a good beer.
It's good beer.
It's a good beer.
They all are.
I was shaking my head no.
It was like that PBR chocolate beer or whatever the heck somebody made like that. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, Dunkin' Donuts is actually,
this is much better.
They've pushed off into doing other beers as well. So they actually have like a jelly donut beer.
Okay.
They have like a pumpkin spice beer.
And it's all through Harpoon?
All through Harpoon.
Nice.
You know, to varying degrees of goodness. I have tried them all. And then the thing that really kicked it off for me was I believe it was last year or the year before, Waffle House actually did a bacon and maple syrup beer.
I missed that one.
With?
Do not remember. It was not released widely. It was only available at one beer festival.
Oh,
that's awesome.
Oh, I saw that.
Which is kind of similar to what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez.
But this is available. So we ended up producing a very limited number of cans for a press giveaway, as well as for sale at Shippingport Sally Forth Tap Room. And it is actually at 2 bars now in Louisville.
Yeah, we're on tap at Knock Bar and also High Horse because ultimately we do want people to just like taste it and get excited about it. And for us, similarly, it's like we obviously are trying to create a name for ourselves in the craft beer community, but there's a whole lot of people who would never have heard about us other than like the fact that they are stoked about Long John Silver's.
Sure,
And, like,
absolutely.
and this is like a weird thing. Like you started off saying, like what the fuck?
Yeah.
And it's just like everyone's just like, what's happening?
Yeah.
What's happening?
No,
And there's
I
always
love it.
like a good hype that gets built out of that kind of energy. So
Well, when I first read, or like when we first heard about the concepts, I was like, the first thing you think when you hear the description of the beer is like, I have to try that. It doesn't even necessarily matter if it's going to be like, if I'm going to
Malt
love it or
vinegar,
if I'm going
eh?
to spit it out. Like I have to have it either way. I have to try it.
And a lot of people definitely were like, malt vinegar, get out of town.
Yeah.
That's not going to be good. And then when people are like, actually, it's good. I'm like,
Works out.
I don't ever set out to make a beer
it's
that's
good.
kitschy for the sake of being kitsch
Yeah.
and not drinkable. So I'm like, of course it's good. Come
Well,
on.
you might treat your water at the beginning of a brew process anyway, just because the water is more like acidic in some of those German places anyway. So
Bentley, I mean, you seem to be familiar with the brew space in different ways already, but did you have any like takeaways from this project or a different perspective on the beer community, on all the beer nerds after doing this?
So I've been lucky enough to be fairly heavily involved in the beer community locally. Like I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, so I was pretty big with some folks over there.
Yeah, you and Garrett just like go
Yeah,
drink and drinks all the time.
exactly.
They've got matching tattoos. It's no biggie.
But I think the interesting thing for me is just the amount of reach that this community actually has. There were some folks that I haven't talked to in like 5 or 6 years up in Chicago, up
Nice.
in Maine, who just texted me and they were just like, "Hey, Bentley, did you have a hand in this? This feels like something that you would do."
that sounds like a backhanded compliment.
I'm lucky enough to be in a career that allows me to do some really weird things,
Yeah.
very notable things, and this is just kind of like another one here. But across the board, the reception has been very, very good. Everybody who has reviewed it has had nothing but great things to say.
That's good to hear.
One of the things that we did put in the original press release, even though I don't think it ever made it to actual print, was that this is a very crushable beer,
Yeah,
and it 100% is.
it is.
It is.
And for being it's 6.5, right?
Mhm.
For 6.5, it's a
we
little
have
bit
3
hotter.
cans open right
I know. I'm taking mine down fast.
It is incredibly good, and we do have 2 kegs back at headquarters. We're still trying to figure out exactly what we want to do with that, but I'm hoping that we can get into some beer festivals this summer.
Yeah, totally.
Well, might be able to help.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to
Good to
know.
know.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Cool. Amelia, do you have any takeaways from this project?
Shippingport is always really into collaboration and collaborating with people outside of our like specific industry is always really interesting. And I feel like that's the thing that I've really enjoyed is the fact that working with people who aren't like necessarily just in craft beer, like seeing how we can make something that's really good and dynamic and like how many more people we can reach is like wonderful. And I really, really want to do more of that, I hope. Collaboration is the backbone of our business right now. And reaching outside of just craft beer has been really, really fun. And I hope to do more of that.
Something we always try to stress whenever we do our collabs with different breweries around town is that we always try to figure out a way to bring in a third party in there somehow that's not involved in the brewing space at all, because that just makes it more fun for everybody. And if it's a nonprofit or a small business, there's you could say like a feel good aspect to it, or just a way to broaden the reach even more.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think that there is always room to bring more people into like our wheelhouse, and also learn from people who are outside of our specific,
Yeah, totally.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
house again, wheelhouse. Whatever.
And we don't have to spill any secrets, but this might not. There might be some more things for people to keep following the Long John Silver's account, and you guys might
Everybody should
have
follow
some more
the Long John
collabs.
Silver's account all the time.
Yeah. This
But-
might be this might not be a standalone.
For like a day, can Ale Trail be the one account on Instagram that Long John Silver's follows back? Because they don't follow anybody on.
We do not
Instagram.
follow anybody.
but for like 24 hours, can it be us?
Let's see what we get. Let's see what we can make happen.
All right, there we go. So let's switch gears and just actually talk about Shippingport, because we really didn't get a chance to dive into that yet.
Yeah.
You've been open since what, June? last year?
Our grand opening was June 24th, 2021.
So
Jeez, that seems like a lifetime
That's-
ago.
I know,
I know.
and also like a moment ago.
Yeah, time is lost all meaning.
So tell us about the tap room. Tell us about the Portland neighborhood and just how everything's been going so far.
So yeah, things have been going good. Obviously, you know, opening during a pandemic is
Yeah.
a challenge within itself.
No.
No, it was easy. Apparently, David says it was, you know, easy peasy lemon squeezy. So I don't have anything else to add to that. No, basically, I had endeavored to start up in 2020. Pandemic hit. Had to pivot in a lot of ways. So we're operating on a pilot system and contract brewing our 2 core brands, and then doing a lot of collaborations. We are doing well. But as I know that all small businesses have experienced, we have had to pivot and pivot and pivot again, because we keep on thinking that we're going to be at the end, and then the end doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But things overall are going better than we could really ask for. We're making really, really good beer. I'm very excited about the products that we're making.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
That's really
Thank you.
true.
Our 2 core brands are a Kolsch and an IPA that we contract brew with 1020. So go over there and brew in their system, and they're very solid. Then we're making very small batch stuff on site. We've got Belgian triple on right now. We're going to be releasing a Sati tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
That one of our regulars is a lovely Finnish man named Peter, and I'd never talked to someone from Finland about that style. I'd never had that style that was actually produced in Finland. I've only had American produced Satis.
Yeah.
And so like when he came in and started hanging out, I was like, can you tell me what this style is about? And
That's
like,
awesome.
would you like to like kind of like give me a recipe that you feel like would like really recommend that style authentically? And so we basically brewed it based upon his
That's awesome.
information. And what I definitely know is that you have to get the yeast directly from Finland, and it's baker's yeast, and you can't order it online. So
Huh.
we did a Voss yeast, and hopefully maybe he'll have somebody send some illegal yeast in the mail. But
Is
stays
it
in-
illegal to send yeast in the mail?
it's a microbiological product, and
Maybe do, like,
customs
customs or
usually
something,
doesn't enjoy you sending those
Yeah.
across.
Just do it like put it inside of a little like
long and
Finnish
short.
scone
We'll
or
see how that
something,
pans out. I'm
Yeah,
not
inside
breaking
of a
any
teddy
law.
bear.
It's
Yeah,
totally
yeah.
fine. I wouldn't actually do that. That's
In
not a
fact,
real thing.
You're just kidding, actually. Like,
I'm
you're,
just
it's
joking.
it's a big joke.
If I have a sourdough starter, you're telling me I can't mail it?
No, you're not supposed to out of the country, because your microbes here are different than other people's
all
microbes.
right, you
and
guys
Oh.
fly me to Finland. I will just drink 10,000 of them so that my entire microflora
then we'll just swab your
gets,
armpits,
exactly.
and it'll be fine.
I'll infest
Um,
myself.
Gross.
Yeah.
Long and the
This
short.
is all very gross, actually.
Well, we're gross. What can I say? But our beer is great.
Not
So
only your all's beer is great, but the little like the community that you guys are creating down there, it seems like it's really just picking up steam and taking off. And like, you know, you guys are the first brewery west of 9th Street since
Pre-prohibition.
I mean, yeah, right.
we're the first
Tap
tap
room,
room.
yeah, yeah.
Obviously, there have been. I know Fall
Yeah,
City
Against the
had
Grain's out
theirs, and then
there,
Against the
yeah.
Grain has their protection facility. We're the first tap room, and building community is really important to us. But it's a lot of doing that, making it a space that is like accessible to everybody. The food and the beer prices very much are geared towards that, but the beer itself is also like meant to be interesting and meant to be something that brings people from everywhere.
Yeah.
The environment and the food and the accessible prices are meant to be very much for the neighborhood.
Very accessible.
Yes, but the beer itself is meant to be something that draws people in from everywhere. I'm really stoked. Also, we did a collaboration with Monic. That's another forage beer.
Oh, I had it the other day. It's fantastic. Yeah. Buddy let me try it.
Thank
It's
you.
really good.
Yeah, we did magnolia petals. When you dehydrate those, it's like ginger snappy.
Interesting.
And then grapevine, the sap is very grapey, so it's a grapevine magnolia beer de Mars.
Where'd you guys go to smuggle the foraging? elements
We
this time?
foraged. We did urban foraging of the magnolia petals.
Nice.
Everything you're saying is like borderline illegal.
No, it's not.
Did you just steal that from somebody's front yard?
No,
Some old lady was
I
like,
did not.
my flowers.
And then we have foraged some in some parks. Specifically, grapevine is invasive, so we do not feel bad at all.
hack it
about,
down.
like not
really.
It's not like invasive, but it does pull
Just
down
not-
trees
yeah.
and like
It'll choke things out. For
exactly.
Sure. Yeah.
So that beer is super delicious. And we're gonna do more of that. That's
Another
part
kind of
of
series
where
that you guys are doing too. It's just like that kind of like foraged style.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's part of where our heart is. We love making like super crushable, accessible beers like this, but then we like to have these beers kind of like open the doorway to these more like experimental kind of like esoteric beers, like the forage beers.
Mhm.
The Chimera beer was like that too.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, great.
And we're about to do a collaboration with Turtleback Ridge
Oh, nice.
next week, which is Kentucky's only
Yeah.
farmhouse brewery,
Yeah.
and like super stoked to work with those guys. So yeah, we're like hippies who are making delicious beers with like, you know, people outside of our industry, and then also making a bunch of existential like weird witchy things.
yeah, totally.
The Chimera beer was what? 'Cause I think that's still on at both locations.
Is it
It is.
matriarchal?
Matri-
Matriarchal?
Matrilineal.
Matrilineal, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
a name.
Yeah. Sean chose that one, and I was like, you know what? That's good. It is a good name. It's just like, I know that's a mouthful for a lot of people, and they like see it, and they're like, I would like the sassafras beer. And I'm like,
Where did that name come from?
so Native American communities are often based in matrilineal arcs as opposed to patrilineal, as in like the you
mother.
follow the mother's line
Yeah.
as opposed to the father's line, and also they're very based in foraging. So in the concept of foraging,
I dig
it
it.
makes sense that we would like pay a little tip of the hat to that. And that one has sassafras, shagbark hickory, cherry bark, and turkey tail mushroom.
Yeah, so I'm getting to a point now where if I go to any brewery, any tap room in town, I'm just like, oh, Shippingport collab. I want that.
Yeah,
Because I know it's going to be different than anything else on the menu.
yeah.
That's what I want.
And you just want to try it because it's going to be, like something witches brewy or just like a great Kolsch. Like,
Yeah.
you guys
Thank
do
you.
both of those
Because,
really
like,
well.
in you know, I mean, you're doing a beer to Mars, and that's not something that everybody does.
Yeah.
And
Actually, you don't see them very often.
you don't. I mean,
Yeah.
no, it's in this market. You know, whatever sells, I suppose, and people want to cater to that. But like, it's the idea of like, hey, you probably like beer to Mars, so that's why you want to brew it, right?
Yeah.
Buddy definitely was the one that chose the base beer,
Okay,
but at
fair
the same time, Buddy very much is in the same vein of like, and I think Monica is generally
Yeah,
like
yep.
making beers that are like interesting to brewers. We all make beers that like we know are the ones that people are going to drink more than other things, like
Yeah,
Kolsch and
for sure.
IPA. I don't chase a lot of the fads just because I don't enjoy drinking a lot of those beers, and when I do make those beers, I try to do those in collaboration with people who I know do them really well.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Where we just did a collaboration with with Noble Funk and Atrium, and it's like an 11% sour.
Nice.
It's got
11% sour.
Cool.
it's
Are you trying to kill people?
Yes, exactly. No, it's a riff off of the Bee's Knees, which is a pre-prohibition cocktail. So juniper, honey. We added botanicals because I like botanicals. So we have lemon verbena and lavender,
Oh, cool.
and then blackberry puree because it's Atrium and they
Yeah.
like their fruits. But like it's gonna be.
I think one of them must own like a fruit company somewhere too. It's like,
It's just an Amaretti stock.
yeah.
Somebody's uncle.
Yeah.
I from my understanding, the rates that they're paying for their puree, I don't think.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like
they do them well. Not everybody does like
Yeah.
slushy beers well. Atrium is one of the ones that does those
Exactly,
very
and
well.
they do it really well. And so
Yeah.
when you're going to work with people who like are doing those kinds of beers, like obviously those are the kind of collaborations you're going to do. But they already had a bunch of like kind of like dessert-esque beers that they were doing, and when they were like, "Oh, maybe we'll do a cocktail-inspired one," I was like, "Yes."
Yeah.
Yes.
Because botanicals is where I live. Like, let's do that.
Yeah. You mentioned like Louisville as a market a little bit ago. You guys are both, been in Louisville for a while, but you guys have both also lived in beer communities. You mentioned like, Brooklyn, and I know you've had a ton of places on the West Coast. Portland, probably like the one you lived in the longest. Is that right?
That's where I lived. Yeah.
How do you think Louisville, where do you think we are on a scale of like beer city from we just got born to being like a New York or a Portland or even Chicago or Asheville? What I don't know. How do you feel like it's grown?
What's our trajectory like? Right now?
I would say Louisville beer scene's better than Brooklyn's.
All right, folks. That's thanks for tuning in. This has been Kentucky Commons Radio.
No, Brooklyn is just like a hard place for things to thrive, just because real estate and density.
Yeah.
There's definitely I've been to. There's one in Greenpoint that I've been to in the past, I don't know, 5-7 years. That was pretty good.
So there are a lot of breweries in Brooklyn now, but that was just because the laws just recently changed. And I guess we've actually in Louisville been encountering the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
Where,
Kentucky's laws have changed.
It was very limited in what you could produce. And I remember when I was living in Brooklyn was just when they started to let up the stuff, and they would give you very discounted licenses if you used only New York products.
Oh, gotcha.
But even that still sort of limited the thing. But Brooklyn Brewery is now a national brand, which is great. Bronx Brewery just opened up as well. Finback is really good. Six Point is really phenomenal.
Yeah.
6 Point had just gotten started. So I literally left New York to move to Portland to work in a brewery because I decided that's the trajectory that I wanted to go on in 2007. And there was Red Hook.
Mm-hmm.
There was Brooklyn.
I forgot about Red Hook, man.
And that was it.
Yeah.
That was my options.
In Portland?
No, in New York. And so I basically just Googled which city in the country had the most breweries per capita, and it was Portland, and that was only 23 at that point.
Wow.
And by the time I left, that was 23 within 5 miles of city center. When I left in 2013, there were 56 within 5 miles of city center. And I know that it's probably closer to 100 now. So the density is crazy. But at the same time, when I moved back here, we had 5 breweries in the city and 10 in the state.
So that's one thing Michael and I have been tracking for a little while, but year over year, Kentucky goes up about 50%. If not more,
going exponential. Right?
Well, since the beginning of 2020, 10 or 11 new tap rooms have opened up in Louisville.
Yeah.
So that's a new tap room one every 2.5 months.
Yeah.
That's 100% growth.
Yeah. That's incredible.
And I think the diversity of beer here is pretty intense as well. The only other city that I would really compare Louisville to would probably be Asheville.
Yeah, sure.
That's a great comparison too.
Which got the tourism, and we have the bourbon, they have the Appalachian Mountains.
I think that's the big thing, is that bourbon continues to overshadow the beer community here, and that's fine because bourbon is older. That's just the way that it is. However, one of the things that we're kind of looking to capitalize on is if we can get long term some nice wild bottle condition bottles in the same place that you would see those bourbons, so that when you come to town, because you're going to come to town for bourbon, and then you think of I should stop by a brewery, then you'll come by our spot because you've seen our fucking bottles there. That's pretty much the extent of the distribution that we want to do.
So aside from that, we've talked with a couple touring companies around town, because part of our mission is to get Louisville beer to the world and establish us as a beer destination more than a bourbon destination. Not more than,
just along with
beer destination.
And a beer destination. Yes. And some of the feedback immediately, as soon as we started talking to them, is you can't drink bourbon all day.
No.
It's these people get on these tour buses to go to distilleries, and they have cases of beer because they're going to go and do a tasting.
And then they have to drive an hour and a half to the next distillery.
And they're going to drink beer the whole way.
And that's part of what we've already seen, because we are just down the street from Peerless. And obviously on the western side of town, you have a bunch of those distillery experiences. Let's just say it's not that the distillery is on site, but there is basically a tap room gearing towards it. We actually get a fair amount of tourist traffic, because people are just oh, we're supposed to do this A, B, C, and D.
Sure.
You guys are a place where we can just get a pint of 5% beer and a sandwich.
Just hang
and
out.
Hang out for a second, either before or after we're supposed to go to this thing where we know that we've already been drinking bourbon all day, or we're about to drink bourbon all day, and we would just to either level out or get a baseline.
The base layer.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a long-term conspiracy theory that I'm going to try to inject into the zeitgeist, that Kentucky Commons aged in bourbon barrels are freaking amazing. And it's like, we're the new Napa Valley. We're like the Sonoma Valley. Russian River was like aging all their sour, funky beers in those wine barrels. And they became like a whole thing. Just nice, clean Kentucky Common. Was it sour? Was it not sour? Who knows? But if you let it sit in a bourbon barrel and then you kind of age it like an Eau Brune, you just funk it up a little bit. Man, that's like some world class. Then you have those fancy bottles like of barrel aged sour Kentucky Common. It's a very good beer. Yeah, the few that I've had of people barrel aging those things, and you start the beer like you age it in a really wet barrel too, so it goes from like 4% to like 9%. And a little bit of funk in there. So, yeah, Louisville's the next Napa Valley is what I'm trying to say.
This is why we pay for your therapy.
Yeah.
So what's in the future for both Long John Silver's and Shippingport? What's going on that you want to give a shout out to?
So we are coming to the end of our Lenten promotional window. So next Monday is when we start our new one, which is lemon cake with purchase a family meal.
Oh, nice.
So we have a absolutely wonderful lemon cake that's partnered with that, and we're hoping to move a lot of those for Mother's Day, Father's Day. Uh-huh. Grads and dads season's right around the corner.
Grads and dads, yeah.
Grads and dads. So we're gonna be doing that. And then who knows what's in the cards for Shippingport. We had some conversations earlier today. I can't talk about it.
Well, stay tuned on social media, and you guys will be the first to know.
Stay tuned on that.
Yeah, and Shippingport, I saw that you are doing Kolsch service.
Yes.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Perfect time of the year. The weather's turning
Kolsch
around.
service, everybody loves it. And if you're not familiar with it, it is the magnificent scenario that you just buy a little 10-ounce glass of Kolsch. We give you a coaster, and we just don't let you run dry. Just mark it every time we bring you another one.
Yeah.
Until you remember that you need to just put that coaster on top of your glass so that we'll stop.
You have to opt out.
If you fall asleep on the bar, you're automatically opted out.
Well, we obviously will stop if that's about to happen. But
if no one's ever done that, like obviously it's like a big thing in Colon and like a lot of European countries. Holy Grail has done it in the past, but
Hot Sooner Nights was theirs.
I don't know if any Louisville breweries done that before.
Nope.
Not that I've seen.
Yeah, that's super, super cool. If you guys are listening have never experienced that, it's so fun. Just take a group of friends, you just go sit at the bar and just drink session beer for a couple hours, and it's delightful.
One of my least favorite things to do at a brewery is having to think about the next beer that I'm going to have.
Same
I don't want that. I don't want to have to think when I go to a brewery.
Yep.
So if they just bring the beer to me, that's what I want.
And our Kolsch is quite delectable. And the reality also that this fine man was bringing up is that if you get a liter,
that's right.
You got to worry about it getting warm. But if we just keep on showing up with 10-ounce glasses, it's always cold, crisp, and delicious.
As long as I don't have to walk to the bar for a 10-ounce glass.
Nope, you don't. You're walking around with trays every Wednesday.
I do want to know where the name Eddie came from.
Shippingport, I don't think I have any of our branding on us. Shippingport basically has, right there, all these little swirls in water,
that's the Eddie.
Oh,
that's why it's with an I or with a Y.
Named after somebody's dog or something.
That's why it's with a Y
clever.
instead of with an IE.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
It's because the little swirl in our branding. It's
I learned
Eddie.
something new
And you
today.
assumed it was a dog.
Well, it sounds like a cool dog. Hey, Eddie.
Everybody in breweries names something after their dog.
Yeah.
I'm never going to do that. By the way, my dog's name is Jackson Pollock, a.k.a. Dapper Jack, a.k.a. the Sad-Eyed Swindler. And so now you guys know that if you ever hear any reference to that, that's my dog.
That's not the real Amelia. She didn't release that beer. No.
The Sad-Eyed Swindler, though, you got to say.
That's a good nickname.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I think everybody has 5 or 6 nicknames for their dogs.
I've got an ex of mine made me little magnets of all of the different names.
Oh, nice.
So we can rejuxtapose them. And I forgot about some of them until I got it for Christmas one year. And I was like, oh God, I call my dog some weird shit.
I do too.
I have a few. My dog's name's Mocha. When she's being bad, it's Darth Mo. And when it's cold outside and I try and put her sweater on her, she fights it. So she's also the sweater protester.
So my dog's name is Riley. I call him Riles, Rye Bread. If he has dirty paws, Mr. Dirty Paws.
He's also Senior Specklebelly. He is also Muscle Butt. He is also Murder Mouth. Because
fine. You have better names. It's fine.
Do you have any names for Travis?
Just Travis.
Yeah.
Travis?
Like, what's wrong with you
we'll just have a
He has
cat.
cats.
I have a cat.
No, you have 2 cats.
I have 2 cats. Travis and Bucket. And
Bucket. What is Bucket named after?
she's named after a bucket of chicken.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
I think if you make up a nickname for a cat, it'll like push all of your lamps off of your furniture.
Probably.
Oh, they do that anyway.
Yeah.
But Travis gets to come out on the town in a little harness.
Yeah.
Oh,
so he's been to
cute.
Shippingport a few times, hung out in the back patio with us on
Yeah.
a leash.
Yeah, you guys are a good little dog destination too for people
Yeah.
with well-behaved dogs.
I did have one person specifically ask me, we need to talk about Long John Silver's chicken.
Yeah.
Oh, why is it so good?
Why is it so good?
Why is it so, Ray? It's better. It's better than places that are like, oh, our chicken is so good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also
our
hush
chicken's
puppies.
just absolutely delicious.
Okay.
I hands down agree with that.
Why?
100%.
Why is it so
Why?
No idea.
I want to say it's the batter
So
and also the mixing of the grease.
Well, you know, they call
Yeah,
the
that's
mixing
probably
of
it.
the grease.
Yeah.
they call it the chicken of the sea. So
Sure.
It is, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yours is the chicken of the sea.
The real chicken
We're
of
not
the sea.
legally allowed to say that.
I think that's what comes.
But,
but you're illegally allowed to say it.
illegally allowed to say it, 100%.
You're allowed to say it.
Yeah.
He
Those
won't
words
say
cannot
it.
come through my lips. But there is something about our chicken tenders which is just absolutely fantastic. Like, so our culinary team is absolutely fantastic about picking out the best cuts for us. And then just something about our breading and like just being in that same oil as the fish,
Yeah.
as the shrimp. It just
Kismet.
creates something absolutely magical that
It's
happens
so
there.
good.
I'll do another hot
It's so
take.
good.
Hush puppies better than French fries.
Hush puppies are so much better than French
That's
fries.
not a hot take.
It's
not a hot
okay.
take.
That's
Come
just
on.
reality.
Hush puppies are delicious.
Not everything
Tartar
has to,
sauce.
everything has to be a hot take.
Well,
It's just a
But
take.
it could
Well,
be. You know
it
what,
could
John? Hot take.
there are
Way
some
to
French
go.
fry stands out there.
Yeah.
Man.
So one of my ideas tonight was to save one of the beers, and I'm gonna try to get to a Long John Silver's before they close. Grab some hush puppies, and then when I go home tonight, do a little dipping action. See,
your best life.
Yeah. See what's going on.
Can I suggest do that in the tub? Really get the full sea experience.
and watch Pirates of the Caribbean.
Candles,
Yeah.
mood lighting,
Johnny Depp.
Would a
Bath
pirate have?
bombs.
No, a pirate would have candles. Let's get
Bath
real.
bombs.
Yeah. No, not bombs. You'd have to Epsom salts.
Yeah, yeah,
Salt.
yeah.
Of course. Oh,
The
yeah.
brine.
Brine
Brine
yourself.
yourself.
Also have a glass of rum.
Yes.
Ah, but why is the rum always gone?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never been to sea.
Louisville's landlocked.
I'm a greenhorn.
All
I've
right.
been to sea. I've been on like a fishing boat, but that doesn't count, I don't think.
On that note, guys, thank you so much for joining tonight. I'm gonna grab some of these beers and try to get to an LJS before they close.
Hell yeah.
Really happy that y'all came. Glad
It's
we
been
got
a
to learn a
pleasure.
little bit more about the beer. And if you're in the Louisville area, definitely stop by Shippingport.
Yeah, if you're in here visiting
Um,
for Derby, like that's put Shippingport on your list as a place to visit.
But yeah,
And
also
Long John Silver's done
yeah,
Krispies.
of course.
Yeah. A Kentucky
Yeah.
company, come get them hush puppies. Fuck French fries.
No, extra Krispies. That's how you order.
Extra crispies
Crispies,
all
yeah.
the
So hold on.
way.
Long John Silver's #fuck French fries. That's, so when the LJS Twitter account goes
Oh.
rogue,
Yeah, I'll run that by our marketing SVP and see what he says.
I think you could do like go after some chicken places too. Be like, fuck your chicken. Long John Silver's for life.
Well, we try to be positive in all of our endeavors. Like
Arg.
people, yeah, arg. You're doing great, buddy.
I love it. I love it.
Trying to do.
I love it.
just passive aggressive tweets. Hey, you're doing great, buddy.
Just say things like my mother-in-law might say.
Yes, perfect.
It's so cute that you grew up to be a chicken restaurant.
Soon may the weatherman come to bring you sugar and tea and rum. Please do not keep that in. I will fucking kill you.